This is my ride from the West Dundee stage of Intelligentsia Cup, 236 watt average power with an average heart rate of 164 beats per minute. And this is my ride from Cat's Hill that same year, another criterion with the hill in it, where I averaged 264 watts of power and a heart rate of 158 beats per minute. So 30 more watts of power with less effort. What's going on? Well, the secret lies here at the bottom, heat. And I am terrible when racing in the heat, so this year I've committed myself to solving this problem, and here's how. Okay, but first we have to define what the problem is. It's not just me, everybody performs worse in the heat. But why is that? And the super simplified version is our bodies only have so many resources, right? And they can either be spent on pushing watts into the pedals or on heat management, not both. And in cooler temperatures, like at Cat's Hill, my body was all in on performance. And in the heat, like at West Dundee, well, I was robbing some of those resources away from performance and putting them over here towards heat management, resulting in about a 30 watt penalty. So with this analogy in mind, the scale analogy, my goal for the last 6 weeks has been to train my body to become more efficient at heat management so I can put as many resources over here towards performance as possible. In other words, I want to make Cat's Hill power at West Dundee. But let's go a little bit deeper, because there's another claimed benefit to heat adaptation training that goes beyond simply improving your heat management. And stick with me here. When we train in the heat, our bodies learn to manage it better. We sweat earlier, we sweat more, and that actually expands our blood plasma volume. More blood plasma means more red blood cells. More red blood cells means more oxygen delivery and better performance, even when it's not hot out. That's why heat adaptation training has been dubbed the poor man's altitude training, and it's now being commonly used by top professionals in the sport. And the science backs all of this up. I'll drop some links down below if you guys want to dig in like I have. But one thing to note, it requires a very strict heat training protocol. So let's talk about that. And it all centers around this little device right here. This one is from Core. They're not sponsoring this video or anything. They just seem to be leading this space right now. It clips into your heart rate strap, just like you saw, and it directly reads skin temperature. It also communicates with your heart rate monitor and does some calculation to give you a very accurate core temperature reading as well. It's really cool tech, especially compared with how heat training used to be done. I had a coach back in the day who literally told me, put on your winter clothes in the summer, go ride zone 2 power until you can't anymore. That was the instruction. So we've come a long way. This device takes those two measurements, your skin and your core temperatures, and it provides you a heat strain index in real time, which you can view on your head unit, on your phone, wherever. And your goal is to train in heat zone 3, this one here in orange. You can see it depends both on your skin and your core temperature. If you're down in heat zones 1 and 2, the workout isn't giving you that adaptation. And then if you go too high into heat zone 4 or 5, it could be really dangerous. With this tech, you're no longer flying blind. And honestly, it's kind of hard to do by feel. Who knows what I was actually doing back in the day with all my winter clothes on? It all just feels kind of miserable, to be perfectly honest. The one thing I've learned using this is the difference between unproductive heat zone 1 and dangerously cooking yourself in heat zone 4 is razor thin. In fact, I've had to modulate my efforts in order to stay in that productive heat zone 3. So how do I actually do it? Okay, this is as good a time as any to say, I'm not your coach. This isn't training advice for you specifically. This is a summary of what has worked for me. So with that out of the way, you put on this ridiculous painter's suit. I'm not even kidding. You put on this painter's suit, which basically creates like a little sauna around your body. You turn off the fans and you sweat your ass off. Okay, maybe it's a little bit more complicated than that. So let me paint a couple of scenarios. See what I did there? Okay, scenario 1. I would hop on my bike and I would go for a light endurance spin outside to preheat my body. And then I would quickly hop into the suit here in my garage, fire up Zwift, and just continue riding endurance. And in this scenario, I could get to heat zone 3 in about 25 minutes, and then my actual heat training workout begins. In scenario 2, if I'm a little bit more pressed for time, I skip the outside part, and I just jump right into the suit. In this scenario, it would usually take me about 20 minutes to get through heat zone 1, and then maybe another 20 to 25 minutes to get through heat zone 2. So about 40 to 45 minutes before my workout actually started in heat zone 3. Oh, and something interesting, I also bought this indoor air quality monitor just to see what was going on inside my garage throughout all of this. Temperature, humidity, those would both increase here in my garage during the workout, just as you'd expect. But here's what's interesting. Carbon dioxide got to like dangerously high levels. 1,800 parts per million at one point. 400 is what it is usually like outside. So this would drastically come down if I opened the door. Fans are still off, but if you guys are embarking on this crazy endeavor like I have, just keep that in mind. Don't completely enclose yourself in a space because you can run into this really high carbon dioxide problem. And here's the crazy thing. So I did this workout 4 times a week for a month. It's a big commitment. It's a lot, you guys. Now I'm down to 2 sessions per week just to maintain. The specific structure, the duration, the intensity of all my training days, I've already included them in the masterclass, which is a course that I sell. It's designed to cut through all the BS, all the marketing hype, get you as fast as possible, as quickly as possible. Don't waste your money on equipment that doesn't make you faster. Don't waste your money on bogus training plans. If you want to learn more about the Cash to Crit Masterclass, check out the link in the description. So back to heat training. Did any of this actually work? Yes. And to show you, let's look at some of my workouts because they tell the whole story. Okay, so here's my first attempt. This was about a month ago. And you can see that we have heart rate in red, and then we have this heat strain index, heat zones in gray. And yeah, so heart rate is obviously continuing to increase, and we get right on up to 175 beats per minute. But I only just barely get into heat zone 2. So I didn't even make it there. This first workout was a complete bust. I had to stop after about 40 minutes and I was cooked. First workout was a complete failure. So here's my second workout about 2 weeks later. So I have like 9 workouts under my belt at this point. And the results are starting to show. By the way, all of these were done at about 225 watts of power. So it was consistent between, but now look at my heart rate. Still increasing, but it is now looking a little bit more reasonable and sustainable. We do get up to mid 160s, high 160s beats per minute for my heart rate, but we get there. We're at the promised land here, 3 AU. This is heat zone 3. This is where the adaptations take place. This was a very hard workout, but at least I achieved it, unlike 2 weeks before this. And then finally, here we are at the end of my big 4-week block. This was just a few days ago, and we're cruising. Heart rate is still increasing, but not by a whole lot, right? We're starting down here, mid 120s, again, 225 watts of power, and we get up to the mid 140s, maybe 150 at its peak, but check out the heat strain index continuing to increase throughout this. We get up to 3, in fact, we get up to about 3.5 without a big uptick in my heart rate and my perceived exertion. So what does all this mean then? It means I'm managing my heat strain much more efficiently, and coming back to our scales analogy, I'm able to dump more resources over here onto the performance side where I'm pushing more watts into my bike instead of having to commit those resources over here into heat management. And in practice, well, it's hard to actually replicate Midwest heat and humidity here in California, but if we look back at that race I did a couple weeks back, Dash for Cash, that was about 100 degrees, almost 38 degrees Celsius. Video's already up on the channel, you may have seen it already. I felt fine, I felt strong. I wasn't the first to crack in the heat like usual. It felt very manageable. But what about those performance claims, right? What about the poor man's altitude training? Well, I haven't noticed anything really groundbreaking here. No huge boost to my FTP or anything like that. The biggest change is my heart rate. It is noticeably lower. I'll put one of my recent rides on the screen right now. This was a zone 2 ride where I was easily 5 beats per minute lower than I usually am. And this is a strong indication of endurance fitness. And the other thing, I have been sweating like crazy, even on cool days. And this is a good sign. They said this might happen, but that's also why I've been drinking a ton of water. And it's not just water. The keen-eyed among you will notice that there's a little color to it. There's no sugar in here. This is Formula 369's electrolyte booster. Because we don't just sweat water, right? It's full of electrolytes that need to be replenished. I already used their drink mix. You guys know why. It's got high quality ingredients in the right proportions for a fraction of the cost. And the same is true for their electrolyte booster, which has been clutch during this heat block. And yes, code NORCAL20 still works for 20% off your first order, so stock up on those bulk packs because the discount only works once. So here we are now, we're in the final preparations for Tour of America's Dairyland. Can I bring Cat's Hill Power to the big races? We'll find out. Hit the like button if you're into the nerdy side of performance like I am, and subscribe if you want to see how all of this plays out. And don't forget, check out the masterclass, which I've linked down below as well if you're trying to level up your racing. Thanks everyone. Catch you in the next one.